Welcome everyone to the SellOut Show, where we are always sold out. I am Diana Guerin, and I am the co-founder of Trade Show Makeover, where we help you stop leaving money on the trade show floor.
Oh, I hate it when I leave money on the trade show floor.
You're just leaving a trail of it behind you, and you don't even know it.
Hey, Diana. Hey, everyone. I'm Sean Carroll Sandy. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at the Selling Agency, where we coach humans, excuse me, how to sell to other humans, because selling like the proverbial chicken with his head cut off, running around everywhere, it just, you don't ever get any chicken feed. I'll struggle with this one.
Wow, that one went horribly wrong. But it's so exciting because our topic today, I think, is so juicy. And it's something that's been your big thing for ages. But let's talk about our buyers.
Yeah, let's talk about our buyers. And you, I'm so in love with what you and Alice and Trade Show Makeover is doing when it comes to people going to events and conferences and trade shows and expos. Because like a lot of things in sales and selling, people's execution in this area is really not advanced, right? It's not advanced beyond showing up, handing out cards, whatever, or, now people have more tools to, flashing lights and, clowns that jump out and scare you, all sorts of stuff. But is that really effective? What do you share with what we were talking about offline, Diana?
Well, I will. But first I want to kind of, because there's a really nice overlap of what we're about to talk about with your whole thing about customer currency and being in the vault.
Yeah. Unlocking the value vault.
Unlocking the value vault. Exactly. Thank you. A whole other conversation just went through my head. So yeah, but I think that the thing that's missing at trade shows is exactly the same thing that's missing on our phone calls, in our emails, and it's exactly what you talk about. So I think there's a lot of ways we can intersect here, but one of the magically powerful things about a live event is you bring this very sort of three-dimensional activity of selling into like 4 dimensions, right? So you're in an environment, that's the third dimension, but it's very time constrained, right? So I think that, you just get a whole more fleshed out opportunity to create a human to human experience. And what's amazing about trade shows is people bring this horrible, not selling to humans all the way to live events. It's spectacularly bad.
It is. And just like on the phone or email or any other networking event, no one shows up to be sold. They might have, it's like you have to start with the MVP, minimal viable product. In this case, it's a conversation. It's a discussion about, I don't know, why they're there. What do they want to get out of the trade show?
Yeah. So nobody wants to have a conversation with you unless they're going to get something out of it. Mm-hmm. Right? So if you've actually got a human standing in front of you having a conversation, you might get interested in why it is that they want to be having this conversation with you. And so tell me, so if it were you, right? Mm-hmm. So you've been to conferences and trade shows where there are exhibits.
Right.
What do you think people are missing the most about what you want as you're walking the floor?
Well, I think that, first of all, I think when I walk through, I'm on guard, right? Like I don't want to be trapped into talking to you. If I'm interested, I want to ask a question. I don't want to have to fill out a survey or, have my badge scanned before I even know if it's something that I want to know more about. I've been through some rough trade shows where it's just, abusive. I was walking along one time and a guy jumped in front of me and scanned my badge. It was like, I felt violated.
Well, you were. That is actually assault and battery right there.
Yeah. And, 6 months later, a message showed up and said, hey, great discussion at this booth at blah, blah, blah. I'm like, who the is this? I never had a discussion here. What? Yeah.
I know.
That's very violating. So like I walk around thinking, what is that business about? How does that business apply to me? What more could, what more information do I need to be curious? So I think that's how people walk around, and they do it very guarded because they don't want to be attacked or molested or violated at a trade show. And I don't give a shit about most of the free stuff that people have to offer. Seriously. I mean, that's not worth being violated. Your little widget McGidget is not worth being violated.
The pen that you have sitting there that will work for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you're pointing to is really interesting because, so why should a company care about this conversation if they go to trade shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that why they should care is because they are leaving money on the trade show floor. So they're spending a lot of money to be there. Not only these booths and the space that they have to rent, but
right.
the people that they're sending there, the widgets that they're giving away, like all of those things. For some reason, companies have just gotten resigned and they're writing it off as it's a marketing expense. We have to be there, right?
I feel like in general, which I don't speak in a lot of general terms, but I'm thinking back to the last maybe 5-6 conferences or expos or events that I've been to like this. And I feel like the collective emotional intelligence of anyone in the room could fit in a thimble. They're not sending their most emotionally intelligent people to build, rapport and meaningful connections. It's like, well, Joe doesn't have anything to do. Joe, go get on that event.
Yeah, and their top salespeople don't want to be there, which is really interesting because I used to close my whole year of business from 2 conferences.
Really?
And it's because I was so excited. I mean, here you are. You're in an environment where all your buyers are, and you can sit next to them at lunch, and you can hear what they're listening to in breakout sessions, and you can get really interested in the trends and topics in your industry, and you can look smarter and better and faster than you could if you weren't there. And Sean, you know this, nothing beats a human-to-human interaction.
Right,
Nothing trumps that. So these are the opportunities that are there. But again, a lot of times it comes back to management. A lot of the reasons that our sales reps are so sucky is because our managers are forcing them to do really bad things. Mm-hmm. And that person who jumped out and scanned your badge and was violating you was being compensated or rewarded or judged on how many badges they got, not how many great conversations they had.
Wrong activity. It was the wrong activity to incent and to reward. So Diana, how do you know why your buyers are going to the event, and how do you figure that out?
Well, it's a very complicated formula. You ask them. And you can even do it ahead of time, right? So one of the things that we would do is get a hold of our customers who are going to be at the same, you want to go to the places where your best customers are because it's a lookalike audience, right?
Yes. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Right? So you figure out where your top customers are going and you make sure that you're connecting with them there because you want to keep your best customers. Mm-hmm. And you ask them, why are you going? And sometimes your customers will be sponsoring and you want to ask them why they're sponsoring and what's important to them. And then that will give you information about why other people are there. So now you can have, instead of one of those crazy, it's so hard to walk up to somebody to, at a networking event or something, but you can walk up and say, hey, my customer General Mills is here. And the reason that they were so excited to be here was because they're finding that, I don't know, blah that's going on in the world market is really a concern for their profits. Is that the same thing that you're here for? Now what you've done is you've shown them that you know what the hell's going on in the industry, you know what the topics are, you've name dropped one of your to-be-top clients, and then you've gotten interested in them. And no matter what they say, they'll either say, yeah, that's exactly the same thing that we're dealing with, or no, that's not what we're dealing with. We're actually dealing with this. And then you lock your mouth shut, turn up your ears. But I mean, can you see what a great way to start a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's magical.
It is. It is. So moral of the story is ask those questions, shut up and listen. And then if you're a sales manager, don't send your emotionally unintelligent toads and don't incent and reward the wrong behavior.
And I think that's so right. The reality is that's just really scratching the surface, because it takes a lot of thinking and planning to intentionally have this whole thing work together to become magical, which is why most companies don't have magical results. Is they kind of go do the same old thing and they throw the same stuff at it and they get the same results and then they just move on because they're busy.
Yeah.
Because you do have to be intentional to think through all of the different things. But when you know what to do, when to do, and how to do them, and you put them into a package, it just works for you over and over again, like a little golden goose egg goose. It's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I know you're passionate about this. And so how does Trade Show Makeover, what part of that do you help people with? Just to plug
every aspect. Every aspect of we call it the create. We have a create phase, which is create the winning strategy before, dominate, which is dominate at the show, and generate, which is generate revenue by closing deals from the show. But so that's really exciting. And what's funny is a lot of things that we talk about and are not rocket science, and in some cases they seem really obvious, but when you put them all together in the right package, that's when it really works. But I just want to highlight how much business gets done at these things. Like you and I would never have ever been on this podcast together if we didn't go to Sales Hacker Conference.
Yes. Yeah.
And we would have never ever met and Videolicious and worked with, had them in our presentation, in our keynote. And I mean, these are the things that just never, ever, ever are going to happen unless you know how to, be at a live event and what you want to get out of them.
Right. The power.
So I won't pitch, but I get really excited about the opportunity to be with people that I like, that we're figuring out the same stuff.
Yeah. Well, it is super powerful. And if it goes back to something we've talked about in earlier discussions. If you can't master meeting someone in person and those conversations and moving business forward as that opportunity, you might be replaced by a robot, because artificial intelligence is coming and going to facilitate a lot of the early interest and activity but I feel nothing can replace that true empathy and relationship building. If you can't master that, then seriously, you might be replaced by a robot in sales.
So how do you coach people to do a live conversation?
Well, it's a life skill. I had this conversation with one of my sellers yesterday. He finally, this is so interesting. Something finally clicked for him. And he said, we're doing some interesting things with one of my clients. He said, it wasn't until we created this art piece together. I had one of my clients, we went through and we created this art piece together. And then we did a lunch and learn where I walked them all through a pen and watercolor process. And then one of the activities for this month of growth mindset, we actually planted some wheatberry seeds, and throughout the office, there's this little green grass shooting up everywhere. And he said, it wasn't until I saw you in this other light of trying things and applying the things that you're talking about in sales to other places that I was like, you know what? I know she knows what she's talking about, but I need to open myself up to these skills are applicable to more things than just sales and selling. These are life skills. So that was really fun to hear that conversation, but it's a life skill to be able to be empathetic and to be able to listen to someone and to put yourself in their shoes. I have one sales rep that the feedback from her manager right now is that she walks into a meeting and she's like, all business, let's get down to business. And she doesn't know how to build rapport. And I'm not just talking about, hey, how's the weather? How's your mom and them? It's how do you genuinely build rapport on a personal basis that's professional, but not persona driven. I mean, there is a fine balance there. So coaching it's really takes a lot of want on their part and openness, and sometimes more experiences than just having the sales conversations.
Yeah. 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 Brilliant. I mean, I think more than ever, the person to person, human to human interaction is becoming even more precious as we have so much, digital and AI and all that. Because here's the thing, the humans are outsmarting it. So you mentioned scanning your badge. So now what humans do is they put in the wrong information.
Right.
So now you scan my badge. It's like how we did it when we were going to bars, which we never did. And giving the wrong 7 digits because we never did that. I mean, people get really smart about these things. If they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to be tracked down, they'll figure out a way to make sure that it's harder for you to do it. And the more that you create these systems that make people piss off, the harder it's going to be to get through their guard. So just don't be an awesome person. Stand out by listening.
Well, and this goes to a lot of the stuff we've talked about, but if you are trying to take shortcuts, and there's a lot of technology and SaaS platforms and tools that enhance the sales experience, the buying experience.
Yep.
But there are no magic beans. There are no magic beans. If you are trying to work on technique-based things or shortcuts or whatever, you'll be circumvented, and you're just making it harder for the rest of us. It's like it's like scammers and spammers and stuff like that. The more they hack and the more they do difficult things, it makes it harder for legitimate people to send emails or make phone calls or make sales appointments and stuff like that. So sales industry, lay off the shortcuts.
Well, and remember that your prospects are counting on you to find them. I mean, there are people out there that want to buy from you and they want to buy your product and they need it. But how are you going to help them find you through all of this clutter and noise? And that's your magic mission in life.
Yeah. The overwhelming sentiment. I'm over halfway.
I'm so excited about this. You're going to talk about it.
I'm over halfway through the research and data collection for my book, where we're actually talking to buyers and asking them questions. And the overwhelming sentiments are not, hey, salespeople, drop dead and die. It's stop being terrible.
Yeah.
Listen to me and respect me. That's the overwhelming sentiment. Listen to me and respect me.
Yeah.
Be better at your job. And I think that's amazing. There are very few people that said, I never need a salesperson, never want a salesperson to ever contact me. It's, hey, can you just be better at your job?
Oh my God. I had the most amazing experience the other day. A sales development rep called me because I downloaded something and he asked me, why I downloaded it. And it was because of some really random reason that, I think one of the people I represent wrote it or something, right? So I didn't have any real interest in this piece of content. but then he just got really interested in my business. And he's like, well, what do you do? And is this something, so let's stop talking about that content, but here's what I like to talk about. Is this something that, you're thinking about at all? And I was like, well, actually I am. But the problem I keep running into when I think about it is blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh my God, yeah. He's like, well, that's not a problem. And he said, what other problems do you have? And I was like, well, then I have this problem. And he's like, oh yeah, that's actually really easy to solve. And he's like, he spent probably 20 minutes with me.
Yeah.
To get a conversation booked on the calendar. And I was so excited. I'd done my homework. I prepared. I was ready to talk to these people about all my issues, and I put it all together. And he asked if he could reschedule so the salesperson that he set up for me either forgot it or asked if he could reschedule or something. And I was like, no, never mind.
No.
But he did such a great job. And that's all you have to do with the person. And if they don't have time to talk, then move on or come back.
Right.
But we can have that kind of a conversation that really gets interested. It was so unusual for me.
Right. And you put it, you and I, we like to put people through their paces. But how unfortunate for that SDR that he can't count on, the AE or whoever, the BD or whatever, to show up. And maybe that's a one-off. Maybe, however, you and I both know, having gone down that road, that's not that unusual for the handoff to be botched.
I wrote to the sales development guy and I'm like, you did such a great job. I'm really sorry that this, I hope this doesn't count against you that your guy no-showed on me. Because he no-showed. I didn't no-show. So anyway, we could go on and on. But just be someone who cares about somebody else.
Care a lot. Care a lot about your...
Carnegie said it 87 years ago and it hasn't changed.
You what? Say that again?
Dale Carnegie said this 87 years ago and it hasn't changed. And people keep trying to crack the code and it's the same code.
Yeah. Yeah. Remarkably, what people want and expect hasn't changed. We're stuck in these bad techniques and manipulation and crappy delivery. And now we're trying to take technology shortcuts around things to produce better, faster results. And
we're doing crappy stuff at scale.
Sales, you need to take a long, hard look at yourself. And think about what you're doing.
Mama Sandy has spoken.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I say that with my eyes with my children.
But we want you to win and we want you to be awesome and we want you to do great. We really do.
We care. And we want the level that you care to show up in different ways. Care about not creating shortcuts and manipulation, but care about the people that you want to have conversations with. Care about the people you want to help, right?
Care about your craft.
Yeah. Care about being good at it, listening, respecting people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, let's graciously wrap this up.
Let's get the vacuum cleaner has come out. So I will finish us up by saying, stop hoping.
And start selling.
That's right.
Bye, everyone.